Hello, 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 and welcome to my Facebook Live and YouTube replay. I'm very excited for today's transmission. I just feel a level of deep embodiment and deep authentic truth that I feel this transmission is going to be really good. And I'm really nervous. I've noticed that whenever I come into a transmission nervous, they tend to be like good ones, but nervous like an excitement nervous, not like a nervous like I'm wobbly in my energy. But I am very excited to be here today to share this, to share my wisdom, to share my experience, to share my knowledge with you and everything I've been through as a 3/6 generator. In my profile is 3/6. My life experiences are my biggest teacher, and I'm here to show that to you, to the world, to women about what is possible and speak from my experience and from my deepest truth and authenticity. So that's what I'm going to be here today to do. So today's topic is the father wound and calling in the man of your dreams. Before we get into that, the liberated woman in relationships starts in 3 days. So I'm so excited about this. Oh my God, I cannot contain my excitement. Oh my God, the transformation that awaits for the women who are coming in here to embody their divine feminine essence. And from that embodiment, magnetize the man of their dreams, because the universe is like, yep, she's ready now. Let's call this forth. Like, the woman that is going to be transformed in this program, I absolutely cannot wait to see the outcome, because I know in the journey of it, because the journey is the most juicy part of it all. It's what creates this human experience, not always necessarily the destination, but it's the journey. So I'm going to speak more about that at the end of the transmission. So if you want to stick around for that, I'd be happy to have you there. If you're jumping on, please say hello, even if you're watching the replay, even if you're on YouTube. I just appreciate you being here, and I want to say hello back. So, the father wound. This subject hits deep for me. I had a lot of father wounds. My biggest I guess you can say issue. Do I want to say issue? The biggest struggle that I've had with my parents, particularly with my father, has been one of like deep resentment. When I was really young, my mom got deported, and she couldn't tell us. It was too painful for her. So it was like she poof, disappeared out of my life. And then my father, at that time, he didn't have emotional intelligence to hold this pain that was happening to 6 and 5-year-olds. So not only was my mother physically removed from my life, but my father wasn't emotionally available, right? On top of that, he pulled me out of gymnastics, the one thing that I was holding on to for dear life as my happiness. So starting from a young age, I had a lot of resentment towards my father. I had a lot of anger towards my father. I grew up with a lot of anger and resentment towards him. And this caused me to 2 things. Number 1, create a masculine, overcompensated masculine energy within me, because my inner masculine at a very young age had to step up to the plate and take control of my life, because I felt my life was out of control. That's what the masculine does. The masculine is a protector. It's the one that's going to make sure that the feminine is safe. That's the job of the masculine. And one of the jobs of the masculine. So when you're feeling unsafe and unsure, that masculine comes up overprotective, overcompensated, especially if it has to do that over a period of time. So I grew up with a lot of masculine energy and a lot of overcompensated masculine energy. And that caused me to find a man to fill the void that I felt that my father left in me. And that caused me a lot of pain. That caused me a lot of pain because my ex, my biggest lesson in life, my ex-fiance, we were together for 6 years. He was a constant reminder of the void and the pain that my father happened as a child. So I kept trying to make him be what I wanted him to be for me. To be the safe container, to be a man of leadership, to be a man that can hold all my expressions, to be stable, secure. That's what I looked for, right? But because I was coming from this wounded place, because I was coming from this place of I am filling a void, I'm trying to seek a void that my father left me, and I'm going to try to find that void in a man instead of building this part of me and healing this hurt inner child of mine. No, I'm going to look outside of me and find that in someone else. And when I did that, that was a huge source of my pain and suffering for 6 years. Like deep, intense pain and suffering because I was seeking to fill a void. And a void is unfillable. It's a bottomless pit that will never be satisfied. This is why healing the father wound is so important when you want to call in the man of your dreams. When you're in that, when you're done dating men that aren't showing up to their fullest capacity, this is the most important part. This is the most important part because when you can overcome that, you have a clean slate of what you're able to attract into your life, or you're able to create from a place of pure desire versus from a place of need, scarcity, a void. So like a lack of. You can't create from these places because the law of attraction is very crystal clear. You're going to attract what you are. So you're going to attract a man who, what were the 3 things that I just said? Who is unstable, who is insecure, who is not safe. But because your inner child walking around with all these father wounds, it's like, no, be this thing, be the father that I never had, when he can't provide that for you. It's actually something that you have to start to cultivate within yourself. So your father is the first example that you have of the masculine. Okay? Your father is the first example that you have of the masculine. So what does the masculine represent in his pure divinity? Safety, security, provider, stability, communication, healthy boundary setting, a safe container, consciousness, presence. Let me see, am I missing anything? And your father teaches you how to be safe in your body and how to be safe in a relationship. So I want to ask you, have you felt that with your father growing up? Did you feel that with your father growing up? Because if you didn't, guess what you're still feeling, and you're feeling that void, you're feeling that lack of safety in your body, you're feeling that lack of safety in relationships. And your safety is dependent on that person's emotional response to whatever is happening in the relationship or in life. You're only going to have pain. You're only going to have pain. So the work is to forgive your father, to let him go. Understand that he did the best that he could. Understand that we chose our parents. This for me was a huge part in taking radical responsibility of my entire life, was that I chose my father and I chose my mother, and I chose certain things to happen in this lifetime so I can grow and learn from it. So what if this is your truth? This is my truth for me. And I'm speaking, like I said today, I'm speaking from my truth. I'm speaking from my experience in my life and the deep truths that I have found that has expanded me to the woman that I am today. If you chose your father and you chose your mother, what lessons did you come here to learn from that? What lessons did you come to learn from that, and what it means to be in a sacred, intimate relationships with a man? I see, like, I am so intensely staring at myself and just being here so connected that it feels like almost everything around me is like fading. I feel like I'm really like in tuned right here. Hopefully it's not me about to faint. Someone call my boyfriend if that happens. He's at work right now for a couple of hours. So the forgiveness piece is so huge when it comes to healing your father wounds. I, for so long, was trying to change my father. I was for so long trying to get him to feel me, because that's the other component to the masculine, is that his presence, the depth of his presence, that you feel, that he's able to feel you. For so long, I wanted him to just understand, to feel my suffering, to feel my pain. And for a long time, he could never give that to me. And I tried and I tried and I tried until part of me forgave him, part of me let him go. But that still wasn't fully healed. And then I called in a partner that I kept begging and begging and begging for him to feel me, to see the pain that he was causing me. I was literally reliving my childhood of the relationship that I had with my father in an intimate relationship, because that is what happens. You will embody, you will show up in your intimate relationships the way that, when it's unhealed and unconscious, the way that you showed up with your father and the way the father showed up for you. So most relationships are unconscious. It's little girl energy, little boy energy in adult form coming together. This is an unconscious relationship. An unconscious relationship, two wounded people trying to fix each other, to make each other fit each other's needs so that they can be happy. The one thing I kept feeling from my ex-fiance was, he keeps trying to make me someone else so that he can be happy. But guess what the fuck I was doing too? Kept trying to make him be something in order for me to be happy. In order for me to finally feel free in the relationship, to finally feel liberated in the relationship. This is what happens when you're walking around with your father wounds, entering relationships, number one, hurt, and number two, with a guarded heart. Because when you're doing that, guess what is happening to your heart? You are creating a shield around them. That's what the overcompensated masculine does in you, is trying to protect the feminine. So it is creating every single fight, every single argument, every single disappointment, every single time that you're trying to make that person be something to fit to your needs. Guard, guard, guard. Men are not safe. Relationships aren't safe. I can't get my needs met. yeah, you can't get your needs met because you're not meeting your needs first within yourself. You're outsourcing that. Meet your own needs. Forgive your father and set him free. Set him free so you can set yourself free. Like, I'm even like a little emotional saying that, because I'm moving down to Florida, and I can't believe I'm getting emotional about this. I'm moving down to Florida, and I'm gonna land at my dad's house first before we find a place. And I know going into Florida that my dad still triggers me, okay? So the key here is not to have a fully healed relationship and you and your father just meditating in the hills and singing kumbaya like we are one big happy family. That's not the goal. The goal is to to be healed enough that you are no longer seeking that void in your man and making him live to an unrealistic expectation and then trauma projecting on him for the mistakes that your father made. That's not what we want. Let go, set him free. Forgive yourself. And as I was saying, moving into Florida, there's still parts of me, there's still parts that he triggers in me, you know, and those are still parts that is calling me to step up into my own embodiment as a feminine woman, as a feminine being, but my own embodiment of what kind of relationship do I want to have with my father? What kind of relationship do I want to have with him? Am I going to allow his comments that aren't really, they're not mean. They're just sometimes like, really, like, why are you saying that? Dad being dad. Am I going to wobble in my energy and wobble? Or am I going to be like, I'm going to show up as a woman. I'm going to speak to my father as a woman. And there will be times where I probably have to really be vulnerable and crack my heart open and probably revisit an inner child version of myself. But that needs to happen in order for this to be healed. Will he see me in that? I don't know. But I know I'm giving myself a chance for healing. And that's what needs to happen. So you need to come to that point where you are healed enough, where you have set your father free, where you have let that go, that you are no longer seeking that void in your man. Because if you're still seeking that void, you still have these limiting beliefs about, you know, your father abandoned you, your father cheated on your mother, your father, you know, he wasn't a safe container, your father was controlling, your father was, you know, your needs weren't met from your father. Whatever it is that your father did and whatever resentment you have towards him, or you can just label it under men, okay? Because sometimes it can be hidden with just the mask of men, not necessarily just your father. So we can also put this in the category of men that have hurt you in the past. Hi, �々𝘃𝘃𝘃. I think I pronounced that right. Okay, so I lost my train of thought. I'm gonna drink some water. Okay, I am not available for these types of conversations. So you will be blocked, mister. Not available for men in that. Okay. Okay, so once we let go, okay, so here's what happens. When you finally let go of your father, you finally set him free, you let go of the resentment, you let go of the anger, you let go of all these projections that you've also have placed on men based on your experience of your father, because your father is the first example of the masculine, right? So this is what you as a little girl go into your life thinking that all men are, right? So once you let that go, once you set him free, then you can start healing your own inner masculine, and you can start awakening more of your feminine as well. The masculine is a protector. The masculine, right, is like when you're, from all the pain that has happened from your father and from past relationships, your heart becomes guarded. Your inner masculine goes, I'm stepping up to the plate. I'm going to protect the feminine because she feels unsafe. Boom, right? So once we let go of the pain that the feminine has felt, then your masculine can be like, whew, okay, I can lean back a little bit. I don't have to have my sword and my shield up. I can let her be unleashed and free. Then you can start creating what it really feels like to feel safe in your body as a feminine being. Then you can start to create what it feels like to be safe with the man. Then you start calling in relationships that no longer remind you of your father. Now, I will say, does it mean that you will not get triggered in your relationship? No. Yes, you will still get triggered in your relationship. Does that mean that your man will not show up with any of your past father wounds in the relationship? No, it does not mean that. It means, yes, he probably will. But now with this relationship, what it's calling you is calling for both of you to embody deeper your masculine and feminine energies. So what I have learned coming into this relationship with my man, in a conscious, awakened relationship, in a sacred union, is that we are embodying deeper and deeper our truths. We are able to every single day, every single month, every single year that goes by, we can embody more of who we came here really to be freely. It means that the triggers that happen, if I trigger him from, past things, or if he triggers me, usually it's more in triggering me. And if it does, something does remind me of what my father did and the lack of something that my father didn't show up as, and I feel it as an insecurity, I can now communicate that with him. And usually that means that he needs to just embody more of his divine masculine energy, is what I have noticed. And we're both available for that conversation. It's not of I'm unavailable for that conversation because now you're reminding me of my father. So I'm going to trauma project on you about what my father did and the anger that I had with my father and all the stories that I'm making up because you did this to me. So now I'm going to trauma project on you. He's going to project back on me. And we're just two people trauma projecting. Trauma project, trauma project, trauma project, trauma project. Unhealed father wounds. Unhealed, because if you're walking around with unhealed father wounds, guess what? The partner that you call in is going to come in with unhealed mother wounds and probably unhealed father wounds too. It's just how it is. Like attracts like. You will attract the frequency that you are. Walking around with father wounds, you're going to attract people who are walking around in their unconscious father wounds. I have very conscious father wounds. I know what they are. I've worked deeply on them. I worked deeply to heal my relationship with myself, to heal my relationship with my father, to not excuse the things that he's done, but to say, I forgive you, and I now want to create a new relationship with you. I want to show up with new eyes to you. I want to show up a new woman, an actual woman, because I was a little girl and I didn't have any say perhaps in my life, I had no emotional intelligence of what I could actually do and be. Now I know. So we got to take that personal responsibility and say, now I have the power. I have the power to change, to radically change my life. And that is what this program is absolutely about. It's about radically changing your life, radically changing the relationship that you have with your father and men. Radically changing the type of woman that you're showing up day to day and as you're meeting men out there. It's the biggest essence, the biggest energy that I can feel within this program is that you're going to go from princess to like queen, right? A princess is looking to be saved. She is looking for the knight to come save her from, you know, the king that has kept her evil father that has kept her in the castle, and the knight in shining armor has to do a quest to save her, right? Powerlessness. Powerlessness is what that story is. Powerlessness. That is the mentality that most of us women walk into relationships before we're aware of it. Come save me. Prince. Painful relationships like that. Painful relationships. But what I will say is that if you're in that place of calling in those relationships, or you're in that type of relationship, that is a deep initiation that you're going through. And if you've ended those relationships and you're in this path right now of like, I know I need to embody myself. Like, you're initiating yourself to now welcome in your king. No longer prince, a king. I just want you to imagine in your eyes like a princess walking down the streets. Now she's walking down. To me, she almost looks like insecure, but entitled. You know, like, there's gonna be a king that comes sweeps me away on his magic carpet or his horse. And this, living in this like fantasy land, walking around with like, you can maybe even say naiveness. But now, and just the energy of being saved. The energy of being saved is, I am a victim to myself. And I need someone else to come save me and tell me what to do. I remember I created a list of what I wanted in a man when I was in my 20s. And I remember I put, I want a man to take control of the relationship. The reason behind that is I didn't trust myself. I needed to be saved. I want a man to save me. I didn't have leadership in my own life because that was not shown to me from my father. And guess what I got? Totally got a man who controlled. I was a victim to myself. I was a victim to the world. Didn't have any personal power. A princess does not have personal power. Now imagine a queen walking down the streets. Ah! The queen. A princess is walking around in maiden archetype energy. The maiden is the one that is just like, you know, just, it's new to life. She's like walking around and like, yay, like kind of like the immature maiden that is just like looking to be saved, looking for that, like more in her shadow energy. Okay, here's an even better way to describe it. A princess is walking in the light feminine energy without having an integrated dark feminine energy. Okay. A queen walks in If you see her walking down the streets, she knows who she is. She knows that what she has to offer in the world, and what she has to offer in the world is all the knowledge and the wisdom and the love and the compassion and the empathy that she has given to herself, that she can now show to others. She walks around with pride and confidence, and not like an ego pride, a pride of like, oh, so proud of myself for all the shit that I've been through and all that I've overcome. She has integrated the dark energies in her body, in her life. She knows her sexuality. She owns her sexuality. She doesn't suppress it. She knows how to embrace it, and she has her own authentic way of expressing herself. She owns her life. That is a queen. That is why I call you queen. That is why in the slides I have queen, because you are a queen, and I'm calling that part of you out to come here and play in this world, so that you can have a king that knows who he is proud of what he has accomplished in his life, and proud of all the demons that he had to slay himself, that knows how to take care of a woman, that knows how to be a safe container, because he has done all of these things for himself, and he's embodied with his light masculine energies, which is he's embodied in his heart. Do you see? When you are no longer playing with the father wounds, you no longer call a boy that's in his father wounds. You call in a man who's in his masculinity, because you have let that go. Because now you're embodying your feminine from a place of your own personal security, no longer seeking daddy to fit that security, or I was going to say the other version of daddy. The other version of daddy to feel that security. Because the work of our lives here is to completely have our inner masculine and our feminine embodied within ourselves. Right? You can't do that if you are still holding on to past pains, because that's living in the past. You can't show up in the present. So that is also another key part of this, of letting the father wound go, is that now you can show up in the present and start creating a new blueprint for your life. You're not walking around with old blueprints anymore. So there's another key piece here that I want to talk about. That is your relationship to your father and the masculine is a relationship that you have with God. And the reason why I say that is because God has typically been depicted to us as the masculine, right? As a masculine father God. So the relationship that you have with your father is going to be directly and the masculine is going to be directly reflected to the relationship you have with God, with whatever that means to you. But most likely, I mean, if this doesn't apply to you, then it doesn't apply to you. But if it does apply to you, I'm speaking to you. Because God, we have seen it as God is the provider to us, right? God gives us our desires. We ask for what we need. We ask for what we want. And then God provides it. God brings in that penetrating energy, and we ask, right? If you just think of the law of attraction, ask. First, you have a desire. Then you ask for the desire, and then you go into the receptive mode. The receptive mode is the feminine energy. When the universe's part is to deliver it to you, right? So if you're feeling that men don't provide and don't give you what you need, that it's not safe, then you're going to start playing God's role in life. You're going to start playing, perhaps the God role in your relationship. You're going to have a lack of trust that your man is actually going to get delivered to you, and then come into this anxiety of like, time is running out, your timeline is running out, or I have to go and figure it out myself. I have to be the first one to make the moves, or I'm going to die lonely, or whatever stories and narratives you start creating from that because of your relationship that you have with God, and that God is not going to provide for you. So this is another huge important piece, because for me, spirit is a huge part of my life. And as I mentioned, I'm talking here from my truth. I'm speaking to you from my authentic truth. I'm speaking to you what has radically changed my life. And healing my relationship with God has also radically changed how I show up in life, trusting, and also how I show up with men, with my man, with my father, and with the universe. Trusting that my desires are coming, trusting that I can ask for something and that it will be given to me. And feeling the safety of God and feeling God like within you is huge. Because the other part in this is that when you're in a relationship, you can't just, obviously you can't just depend on that safety within that man, even though the masculine is the one that in the relationship provides more of the safety, is the one that embodies the safety, right? The most. However, your partner is human. He's going to go through shit in his life, or maybe he feels unstable. And it has nothing to do with you, and it has nothing to do with another woman, okay? So I'm going to put that one off the table. He's going through something in his own life where you can't lean onto that for whatever reason. Maybe there's a death. Maybe there's a death in the family. Maybe he's going through a financial struggle. Maybe he's going through a health crisis, okay? Because I'm going to be very clear on this. We're taking that woman off the table. When your man can't, let's say he's going through a time that he can't feel stable, where you don't feel that stability within him, you have to find that stability within you and your direct relationship with that Father God, with Source, which is another huge reason why we have to heal the father wounds. Because yes, when you call in the man of your dreams, it's going to be such an amazing relationship where he really embodies that masculine role and is always awakening deeper and deeper levels and truths of that, and you are awakening into deeper and deeper in levels of truths of your feminine, which is why we're really working with the feminine energy when it comes to this specific program. I really want you to fully embody your feminine and feel safe within you to unleash that within you. So you show up into a relationship in that pole of the relationship, right? So that's what happens when you are in a relationship that is awakened and sacred. So when there's a situation that happens where he can't provide that for you, you don't want to feel alone and you don't want to feel abandoned. You want to already have that relationship with God, with Source, with the universe, whatever that looks like for you, so you can continue to build the safety within yourself. Okay. That completes the transmission for today. I think I gave you enough things to start looking into and to be like, okay, what is my relationship with my dad like as a little girl? Go back to when you were a little girl. And do not gaslight yourself, okay? Do not say yeah or justify anything. No, go into it looking at like how really was it? As the viewpoint of my for me, I call her little Jessica, as a viewpoint of little Jessica, what happened to little Jessica? That's how you got to go into it, little you. So these are the first 2 modules that we go into in the Liberated Woman in Relationships, because in order for you to unleash your divine feminine energy, to awaken the feminine embodiment that is ready to be penetrated from a man with his love, you have to penetrate yourself with love and releasing the Father. This is the first thing that has to happen because your heart is guarded. We need to de-armor the heart so that the feminine can relax and awaken. And that's the first step. These are the first two modules. These are all the modules are powerful, but these are the two that we have to work with, along with the shadow. Like, those are the first three ones that are very, perhaps the most triggering, but I'm going to be there with you to support you during this process because it's really important to have that support, and to help coach you through everything that's happening. So in the Liberated Woman with Relationships, the first three modules is really about bringing everything that has been shoved down, bring it up to the surface to be healed, alchemized, and create space, create a blank canvas to, feminine can come out and play with all her archetypes that we're going to go into. So once oh my God, I just got like so excited. Like, I love talking about like shadow work and talking about our wounds, because that to me has been the most healing part of my journey. And then once you really get all of that stuff, you get all of the murk out, like what you can create really is like a blank canvas. Like, you're like, whoo, this is fun, right? So once we get all of that out of the way, then we're going to go into the dark feminine energies, and we're going to start embodying the enchantress, which is the part of you that has the sexual energy, the magnetism, the one who is deeply connected with self, and as a matter of fact, also deeply connected with source, along with the oracle. But the enchantress really is about your sexual energy. So we're really going to start tapping into that, aliven and waking that part of you. Or if it's been a leakage of energy, we're going to call that energy back in. And I love the somatic practice that we're going to do with this, right? And we're also going to talk about, relationships and sex and all of that. Like, how do you show up with that in a man, right? Or are you too easy? Do you stop the conquest of the man? When do you know? When you are ready, how do you go about it? I'm going to teach you what I feel is the most sacred way to go about this. So that is the enchantress. Then we're going to move on into the oracle, which is the one that is deeply connected with her higher self, deeply connected with source, deeply connected with her intuition, deeply connected with her truth and the truth of the relationship. Okay, the feminine is the oracle. The feminine is the visionary of the relationship, and this is one that's really important to express your fierce truth, but not to trauma project onto your partner, and to see things that are happening in the relationship that sometimes you tangibly can't really say, like perhaps say what it is, but you feel it, and you can at least start communicating with that and have the complete confidence to start communicating, confidence within yourself, and knowing that you're not going to be gaslighted. And if somebody does try to gaslight your intuition, you're like, no, you're no longer available for that. I seriously feel like I look like a woman in her 80s right now. Like, tell me if you think that's I feel like I look like a woman in her 80s. I think it's like the makeup. I don't know what it is. Okay, so that's like the dark feminine energies, and we're going to have a practice with your to awaken your oracle within you and to start trusting your intuition and showing up, trusting that when you start meeting potential suitors and when you start dating, because it's important for you to honor that and not to neglect that, because when you start neglecting that part of you is when you're going to create drama and trauma, because you're not listening to the deepest truth of your soul. So even if it's uncomfortable sometimes to actually listen to your truth, when it comes to a man, you're like, no, like, and like you'll have that uncomfortableness because, the loneliness may come in, or the, but I just want to feel loved thing comes in. It is going to be such a less painful journey if you at least sit with those feelings, and I'm going to teach you how to sit with those feelings, than to ignore that, go into a relationship, and then get involved and have a longer trajectory of pain, So I want you to avoid that. I want you to trust your intuition going into a relationship and leading with that. Even though sometimes you know how your intuition is. There's no evidence of sometimes there's not evidence, but there's a feeling. Right? We gotta trust that. Then once we have integrated the dark feminine energies, right, as we talked about, the queen is integrated with her dark feminine energies, right? Then we're going to start embodying the light feminine energies, which is really where a lot of, well, let's say the dark feminine is really what's been suppressed the most. The light feminine has been suppressed or exploited. The light feminine has been the one that has been the most controlled archetype. The maiden and the mother. Of like, this is what a woman is. Like, she's just basically an innocent child, teenager, and then she goes into mother. And then you need to stay there, right? So the mother archetype is really, what I really want to tap into, this archetype is really the Christ consciousness for me. The Sophia Christ consciousness. And now Christ is not about Jesus, okay? It is about like Buddha. You can also call it Buddha consciousness. You can also call it unity consciousness. We are all one consciousness. I'm going to really talk about that in self-love and forgiveness, because there's there's that holding ourselves with the deepest love and compassion and empathy and unconditional love. That is the mother. To me, mother is like that Christ consciousness. Absolutely. That deep nurturer. Now we're going to go into the maiden, and then now that we've integrated all these parts of you, it is the authentically expressed you and how you show up into the world as you've embodied your enchantress, the oracle, and the mother. Right? Because the maiden is still technically the single woman, right? We have what was your mother's maiden name? What was your mother's name before you got married? What's your maiden name? My maiden name right now is Lozano. Right? So still the maiden is still like the part that is very like, I guess you can say independent, ambitious, ready to explore the world. Right? And following that, we're going to have the bonus module, which is desire, pure desire, calling him in. We're going to get very clear, because yes, you need to embody all of these things, but you want to get very clear on what you want in a man and be unapologetic about it, right? And have a man that you feel compatible with. Because then you're just too much of a blank slate where it's just like anything is like anything, versus like having this sureness of what you desire in someone. And that's coming from this now integrated woman. I am woman. Hear me roar. I am woman, and I unapologetically and unwaverably want this in a man. Period. End of story. Okay? And then we're going to get into a Q&A and a closing ceremony, and we're also going to open up with the ceremony too. So with all that said, we have 3 days left until the doors open the doors open for the Liberated Woman. You can enroll today for only $211 for the 3-month payment plan. So the next payment won't come out till 30 days. Or if you want to save $67, you can do a paid in full, which is $555. You will have access to this program after the last module, 2 months after that. So going into February, you will still have February of 2023, you will still have access to this program, most likely like the very end of February. Okay? So that you have times to listen back to the modules, to integrate everything, and you're going to keep the somatic practices and the somatic and embodiment practices. It's so important for me that you still have access to that part, because that is how you're going to continue to integrate these archetypes as time and time goes on, until you feel complete. You're like, I fully embodied this. I no longer need these practices, however long that takes for you. I really want you to have that. So I am so excited to deliver this program. This program, I put so much heart into it. I thought about you every single step of the way, what your struggles are, what you desire, how you wake up and what you think about in the day, because that was me 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And I just stepped into that and I was like, yes, this. And I put so much intention, so much love. And I'm very excited to deliver it in the transformation that happens. Okay, so I'm gonna have, oh my God, you know what I never did? Okay, I'm gonna do this now. I'm just gonna experiment since we're at the end anyways. Okay, how do I, oh man, let me see something. Okay, boom. Can I pin it? Isn't there like a way that you can pin? Oh, there we go. Pin comment. Okay. No, I did I just, okay, no, there we go. Okay, practice time. Glad it's at the end. So anyways, thank you for being here with me today. Let me know what your greatest takeaway is. Say hello. I would love to say hi back. Thank you for being with me. And I will be showing up live Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to be doing some free coaching on here. And yes, okay. Mwah. I love you. Bye.